What I was hoping that we could do today really is bring everybody up to speed on what exactly is happening with Devil's Lake and understand exactly what's going on within the lake. You know, from the west end, the east end, why we talk east end outlets, why we talk west end outlets, and the variation in water quality throughout the lake. And really try and just bring everybody up to speed on what's happening. And I think when people are informed with what's going on, they become informed with the situation, I think, you know, you'll be able to draw your own conclusions on what should be done for the lake. And so to do that, I think we put together packets of information. Over on the table, I don't know if everybody picked it up, we have some maps out there. We have a map with a recent photo, and that map shows the route that we're going to take today for the tour. We'll be leaving Devil's Lake, going up to Minnewaca, looking at the state outlet, looking at some of the road construction, some of our embankment work, as well as ultimately ending up at Talmatuli, which is a concern for some of the downstream folks. So we have that, and then if you flip that over, you'll have a map showing the extent of the city's flood protection when we're completed. The city's flood protection has been raised multiple times over the last 25 years, with a small levee that was constructed in the mid-1980s to raise an extension of that, the flood protection in the mid to late 1990s. And as they were raising our flood protection in the 90s, they executed change orders to contracts during the course of construction because the lake was just coming up so fast. In 1997 alone, the lake came up 5 feet. And so they had to add on to the flood protection. Right now we have about 8 miles of flood protection for the city, and we'll be adding on to that, and in the end we'll have about 12 miles of embankments holding back water, lake water from the city. The second map you have shows that flood protection, and it shows the extent, that crosshatched area, that's the portion of the city that would be flooded without having that embankment out there holding back the water. Just for reference, we're putting a sign up along Highway 2. When you're driving through Devil's Lake on Highway 2 and in front of Walmart, for instance, as you're driving through Highway 2 near Walmart, we're going to put a sign up there that says the Devil's Lake water level. So we can keep everybody abreast on where the water level is. But we're going to have an arrow on that sign because the water level is actually 22 feet up on our light poles. So we're going to have a little sign up there with a little water symbol showing that's where the water would be near Walmart, 22 feet up from the base of the lake. So that's that map. I think the State Water Commission provided a map for the state outlet. That's included. And then just some information on the flood facts and some a map on the lake as it grows, as well as some probability models from the USGS. The U.S. Geological Survey, they put together potential future scenarios of the lake, and they try and assign a probability to future lake elevation. That's a model that we've really relied on for the last 15 years plus for how to address the Devil's Lake situation. And the issue with that model initially was many of those future traces for the lake, those future probabilities, showed that the lake was going down. We've already peaked. This is in the 1990s, so we've already peaked. And so the approach that we've taken with everything associated with the lake has been this incremental infrastructure protection as required. That's what we've all been taught. It's been pounded into our brains. You do as much as you need to get by, but don't do any more because the lake's going to go down. And so in the end, rather than taking roadways up to ultimate elevations, we only raised those roadways some small amount. And Highway 19, for example, they built a brand new bridge on Highway 19 in 1996. The lake came up 5 feet in 1997, and that bridge was already, the beams of that bridge were already in the water because the lake came up so much. And you see that throughout the area. We have this, this incremental infrastructure protection approach. That model, when they looked at it a little bit more, they were saying, well, what's going on here? What's happening? Why is this model not showing us what's happening with the lake? It's giving these very small probabilities that the lake will continue to rise. They looked at it a little bit closer and they found out that about 1980, there was a change in the climate, a statistical shift in the precipitation. What we've all been taught is when you when you run these models, you take a period of record for the weather information that you have. Well, they found out that the period of record really changed at 1980, and so when they adjusted their model, it really shows a much higher probability for the lake to continue to rise. And the issue that we have with that, of course, is ultimately there's this very good probability that the lake could continue to rise and spill naturally through the Tolna Coulee. As far as the Tolna Coulee goes, I've been at some meetings and there's been some concern about why the city acquired the property in the first place, and then why did we remove 1 foot of sediment. And I think we've tried to address that to some extent, but the ultimate reason why the property was acquired for Tolna Coulee was strictly based on our flood protection. When we were originally working with the Corps on our flood protection and the requirements for that flood protection, the embankments are getting so tall and they're holding back so much water, they're really being analyzed now as a dam. And so when the Corps was looking at their dam, they were analyzing how high they have to build the dam to an ultimate elevation. And in doing that, they had to evaluate, well, when does Devil's Lake spill out of the lake? And at that time, the spill elevation out of Tolna Coulee was 1459. There was a study that was completed 12 years ago on that area that showed there was 1 foot of sediment that's been deposited since statehood. And throughout the years, there's been some dialogue between the local water boards and the State Water Commission regarding maintenance of that channel, that waterway, and whether that sediment should be removed. And the state engineer had previously stated that 1 foot of sediment can be removed from that coulee. The local water boards thought that maintenance should be completed. In working with the Corps, we found out that as the lake continues to rise and starts to spill, if we lower that Tolna Coulee by 1 foot, we can change how high we have to raise our embankments. And so by removing 1 foot of sediment, spending $50,000 to remove the sediment, we save $10 to $15 million on our flood protection. That $10 to $15 million, yes, it's a 75% federal cost here, but there's 25% non-federal. So that money's coming from the city and from the state. So that's kind of